In a valley where riches and poverty live side by side, a humble farmer named Kwame Adu sings with joy in his little mud house, while the mighty chief Obiri Mensah sits restless in his grand mansion of gold. When their children meet in the schoolyard, friendships spark, but so do jealousies that will test the heart of the valley. This is a story of envy and kindness, of wealth and wisdom, where true treasure is not found in gold, but in peace.
In a valley where the morning sun painted the hills gold, and the evenings carried the songs of crickets, there lived a man named Kwame Adu whose home was small, built of mud and straw, with a roof that sometimes leaked when the rains grew wild. Yet within those walls there was a joy no storm could wash away. For his wife Amasurwa moved with a quiet strength, her laughter soft as a lullaby, and her hands always busy with work that kept the home alive. And together they raised 2 children, Kojo and Yah, whose footsteps rang across the red earth yard like playful drums. Every dawn Kwame rose to till the soil, humming songs of gratitude that floated across the fields, and though his harvests were never plenty, the family ate with full hearts, and every evening Ama's voice joined his as they taught Kojo and Yah the old melodies, until the whole compound filled with harmony that reached even the ears of passing strangers. Yet across the valley, towering like a giant shadow, stood the estate of Chief Obiri Mensah, whose compound was vast, with high-painted walls, tall mansions, and wives adorned in silks and gold, and his horses neighed in stables, while his motor cars gleamed under the sun as servants rushed about to obey his command. And though to many he was a man who had everything, power, wealth, and respect that stretched beyond the valley, he found no rest, for while his rooms were filled with treasure they were empty of laughter, and though he owned gold enough to blind the eyes, he had not the peace that lived in Kwame's humble home. And each time he heard the faint songs drifting from across the valley, a quiet envy stirred in his heart. And so the valley carried 2 worlds, one house built of mud but full of joy, and one built of riches but starved of peace. And from these 2 the story began, for even a chief who held the world could not grasp the simple contentment flowing from a farmer's song. The sun rose golden over the schoolyard where children in faded uniforms gathered, some clutching books, others chasing one another with laughter like bells, and among them was Yah, whose neat braids framed bright eyes full of curiosity, though her patched dress hung loose and her shoes were worn thin. And beside her was Ajoa, daughter of Chief Obiri Mensah, her hair braided with beads that caught the sunlight, and her dress crisp and new. Yet the 2 girls walked together as friends, for though their fathers lived in different worlds, their hearts met in the middle ground of childhood. But there was another, Afia, daughter of a wealthy merchant whose stalls in the market overflowed with spices and fabrics and ornaments from distant lands, and she was beautiful, with skin that glowed and eyes sharp as a hawk. Yet her heart carried shadows, for she could not understand why Yah, the farmer's daughter in hand-me-downs, drew such kindness from teachers and smiles from friends. And so day by day her envy grew roots until her tongue turned sharp, and she mocked Yah's clothes loud enough for others to hear. And some children laughed, others looked away, but Yah bore the words calmly, though her heart tightened, and Ajoa defended her when she could. Yet the cruelty persisted, and the schoolyard became a ground where envy and pride wrestled quietly with kindness and friendship. For Afia's jealousy brewed like a storm waiting for the right wind. Then the rains came softly, washing dust from the roofs. But in Afia's home the air grew heavy, for she did not rise to school, and when at last she appeared her steps were slow, her once bright skin pale, her laughter gone, and whispers spread among the children that she was sick because of her ways, and others muttered cruel tales that she had wasted herself in shame. And Afia heard every word though she hid it, and the teasing she once gave Yah returned to her tenfold, sharper and merciless, until her eyes clouded with shame, and her pride crumbled beneath the weight of gossip, and she walked with her head low while friends drifted away. And even in her father's house she sat alone, bitterness hardening her heart as loneliness wrapped her like a cold cloth. But one night, Ya wrapped food in a cloth and slipped from her home to Afia's window, where a dim oil lamp glowed and Afia lay weary. And though Afia snapped harshly asking if she had come to mock her too, Ya only knelt and unwrapped the food, saying softly that she had come not to laugh, but to sit with her. And though Afia turned away, her tears betrayed her. And night after night Ya returned, sometimes with fruit, sometimes with soup, sometimes with only gentle words, and slowly Afia's heart softened as she spoke of fears and loneliness and shame, and Ya listened without judgment, and sometimes they laughed even through the pain. And though the sickness did not loosen its grip and doctors shook their heads, still Ya stayed, choosing kindness where others chose scorn, until one night when Afia's breath faded and the doctor declared her gone, her mother wailed and neighbors gathered, preparing to bury her. But as the cloth covered her still body, a twitch of fingers came, then a breath, and Afia rose weak yet alive, her eyes wide as she whispered she was not gone. And fear spread through the crowd as some cried spirit and others miracle, but none could deny she had returned from the edge. And the valley trembled with wonder, suspicion, and awe. The days that followed carried many whispers, yet in time Afia walked again into the schoolyard with her head lifted high, her laughter like morning bells, and always at her side was Ya, and soon Ajoa joined them, the three girls weaving their bond like colorful Kent, strong and unbroken, and the children of the valley learned that kindness heals wounds deeper than envy. And across the valley Chief Obiri Mensah still watched from his mansion, his heart restless as ever, for he could not understand how Kwame Adu, with nothing but soil and song, laughed freely while he, with treasure, felt hollow. And one evening he commanded his servants to bring the finest chest of gold, heavy and gleaming, and he carried it to Kwame's humble home, saying, "Take this, for you live with joy while I, with all my riches, know no peace. Perhaps if I share my wealth, I too may taste your laughter." Out of respect Kwame accepted, and that night the family opened the chest, and the children danced at the sight of gold brighter than stars, and Ama's face shone with wonder. But as the fire died, shadows thickened, and Kwame lay restless with fears of thieves and storms and robbers, his song silenced and his peace stolen, until at last he rose with resolve and carried the chest back to the chief, saying, "Great chief, I cannot hold this gift, for it has robbed me of sleep and silenced my songs, and I have learned peace is worth more than all treasures of the earth." And so the valley was reborn, not with gold, not with power, but with peace. As Kwame's laughter rose with dawn, Ama's voice wove harmony. Kojo and Ya danced in dust. Afia laughed bright again with her friends, and the winds carried their joy through fields and rivers, and the elders would say beneath the baobab tree, "Gold may dazzle the eyes, but peace feeds the soul." And the people of the valley believed it with all their hearts, passing the tale so none would forget that the truest wealth lies not in riches, but in kindness, in wisdom, and in the song of a humble heart.